The twin suns of Threxia burned over the silver training fields. The air seemed still alive. A flicker, the tiniest twitch, touched the corner of her mouth. Almost a smile, but gone as fast as it came. Again, she ordered. He obeyed. Fell again. Stood again. Hours later, the sun blazed white overhead. Even the Threxians took breaks, but Keralia didn't let him stop. Sweat ran down his face, his hands blistered, and still she pushed. Finally, when his knees nearly buckled, she raised a hand. Enough. You may rest. Evan dropped to the ground, gasping for breath. Finally. I was starting to think you don't believe in oxygen breaks. Keralia tilted her head. You talk too much for someone who collapses so easily. Talking's a survival skill, he said between breaths. Keeps me from realizing I'm dying. A few nearby Threxians chuckled softly, the first time anyone had laughed during her drills. Keralia's glare silenced them instantly, but her tail flicked once behind her, a sign of faint amusement. She turned back to him. You mock pain as if it earns respect. He looked up at her, his face still red and sweaty. No. I just don't let pain be the last word. For a moment, she said nothing. Her gaze lingered longer than before, studying him, as if trying to understand why this fragile creature refused to bend. Then she walked away. Clean your weapon. Report again tomorrow at dawn. Can I request a day off for internal bleeding? He called after her. Her tail lashed once, not in anger, but in warning. You survive tomorrow, human, and I might consider it. That night, Evan sat alone by the barracks window. His arms ached, but he smiled. He had seen something strange in her eyes today, not fury, not disdain. Something almost curious. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to see him differently. Across the base, in her private chamber, Commander Keralia stood before a mirror of black crystal, removing her armor piece by piece. Her reflection glowed under the blue light. She touched her cheek where color had risen the day before. No warrior on Threxia had ever blushed. No one even remembered the last time it happened. Her hand trembled slightly. Human, she whispered to her reflection, almost angrily. What spell do your kind cast to make hearts falter? Her assistant entered quietly, carrying data slates. Commander, the human recruit completed your full regimen. Uncommon endurance for his species. She dismissed the aide with a nod, then looked out the window toward the human quarters. He was sitting there, staring up at the stars, smiling despite exhaustion. Something inside her chest tightened, an alien warmth she could neither name nor fight. The next morning came faster than expected. As dawn rose, Evan dragged himself back onto the training field. The same Threxians lined up, waiting for orders. Keralia approached with her usual intimidating presence, but something had changed. Her armor shimmered brighter. Her posture carried not just authority, but subtle energy, as if she were testing him for something unseen. Human, she said, stopping in front of him. Today, you fight me. Evan blinked. Wait, what? I thought we were still on warm-ups. She extended her plasma staff toward him. You wish to prove yourself. Now do it. The entire base seemed to hold its breath. The human who had insulted the commander's body was now facing her in battle. He raised his practice spear nervously. Okay, fine. But promise me something. If I die, make my funeral playlist awesome. The smallest smirk appeared on her lips. Begin. She attacked first, fast, fluid, terrifying. But Evan dodged one strike, then another, using agility instead of strength. For a brief moment, he managed to tap her arm. A light hit, symbolic but visible. Gasps echoed across the field. He'd touched the commander. Keralia froze, eyes widening. Not in anger, but shock. He bowed slightly, panting. Respectfully, Commander, that was for the slap. Then he smiled, eyes full of mischief. For a second, the great warrior forgot to breathe. Her tail flicked once more, then she turned sharply and ended the match. Enough. Training complete. As she walked away, her ears glowed faintly violet again. The humans cheered. The Threxians whispered. And Evan realized, somewhere between fear and laughter, that the alien commander's blush might not have been a one-time thing. The next day arrived wrapped in smoke and thunder. Training grounds across the Threxian base lit up with electric storms from new combat drills, live-fire simulations between human and alien recruits. The smell of ozone hung heavy in the air. Evan Holt adjusted his cracked helmet, already sore from yesterday. His palms blistered, his ribs bruised, but his grin stayed. "If I survive this week," he muttered, "I'm putting alien slap resistant on my resume." From the tower above, Commander Keralia watched in silence. Her armor gleamed gold under the twin suns. Ever since that strange sparring match, something in her eyes had changed. Less anger, more curiosity. She spoke into the comm human Holt. "Unit 3. Front line." Evan nearly tripped. "Front line? Are you sure? You might lose your favorite comic relief." "Front line," she repeated. No emotion. But her tail flicked once, amusement, hidden deep beneath command tone. The exercise began. Mechanical drones swooped overhead, firing low-intensity plasma bolts. The ground vibrated with explosions. Human soldiers ducked for cover, but Evan moved differently, reckless, fast, darting through smoke to pull fallen comrades to safety. He didn't notice one drone braking pattern above him until it was too late. A burst of red light screamed toward him. Keralia leapt from her post. "Down!" she shouted, too late. The blast hit. Dust and heat swallowed everything. When it cleared, Evan was on one knee, armor half-burned, smoke curling from his shoulder pad. But the soldier he'd shielded, a young recruit, was unharmed. "Medic!" someone yelled. Evan coughed, waving them off. "I'm fine. Just medium rare." He tried to stand and almost collapsed. Keralia was beside him in seconds, faster than thought. She caught him before he fell. Her claws were gentle against his burned skin. "You fool," she hissed. "Why did you jump in front of plasma fire?" He smiled through pain. "Habit. Humans do dumb things for people they like." Her breath caught. For the first time, her fierce gaze softened, just a fraction. The warriors around them went silent, watching their commander cradle a bleeding human. Keralia ordered the others away. "Resume drills." "That's an order." They obeyed, leaving only dust, smoke, and two souls beneath the roar of engines. She looked down at him. "You risk death for a recruit you barely know." "Yeah," he whispered. "That's what we do." Her tail went still. "Humans are strange." "Thanks. I get that a lot." Later, in the medbay, Evan lay on a glowing bed while Threxian healers worked. Silver mist floated over his burns, knitting skin slowly. He tried to sit up, but the nurse hissed. "Lie still, fragile one. Your body leaks too much bravery." He chuckled, until Keralia entered. The medics immediately stood at attention. "Leave us," she commanded. They left without a word. She stood by his bed for a long time, silent, her golden eyes scanning the injuries as if they were an insult to her own honor. Finally, she spoke quietly. "On Threxia, warriors earn respect through victory. You earn it through pain." Evan smiled faintly. "Guess I'm top of the class, then." Her gaze softened again. "You jest even when wounded." "Why?" "Because it helps me forget the hurt." She tilted her head. Strange, yet powerful. Silence stretched between them. The hum of healing machines filled the room. Then she reached forward and, to his surprise, placed her palm gently over his chest, right where his heartbeat thumped against the skin. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Your heart is fast. Not afraid." "Not when you're this close," he said softly. Keralia froze, her eyes widening just slightly before she pulled her hand back. The faint violet blush returned to her cheeks. "You are reckless, human," she said, standing straighter to hide her reaction. "Reckless and difficult to predict." "I'm consistent," he replied with a grin. "I consistently make bad choices that somehow turn out good." This time, she didn't hide her smirk. She turned to leave but paused at the door. Without looking back, she said, "Rest. Tomorrow you train with me again. I want to know what drives a creature who laughs at pain." And then she was gone. That night, Evan couldn't sleep. He replayed every moment, the heat of battle, the sound of her voice, the strange calm he'd felt when she touched him. It wasn't just admiration anymore, something deeper was taking root. He whispered into the quiet, "Maybe we're not that different after all." Outside the medbay window, Keralia stood in the shadows, unseen. She had returned to check on him, though she'd never admit it. Her claws flexed nervously. She remembered how his heart had felt under her hand, strong, steady, alive. For the first time in her long warrior life, the fearsome Threxian commander felt fear, not of war, not of death, but of the strange warmth a single human had brought into her chest. She whispered into the night, "You are pain and comfort." The stars above blinked in silence, as if even they were watching this odd story unfold, the beginning of something that neither species had a word for yet. The Threxian base buzzed with excitement. Bright banners hung from steel towers, and the air shimmered with light energy. It was the day of the Festival of Blades, an ancient Threxian tradition of duels, strength, and public honor. Every warrior, human and alien alike, was invited to test skill and courage before the Grand Council. The arena's massive ring glowed blue, surrounded by crowds from both species. Evan Holt stood near the registration line, adjusting his armor awkwardly. "So let me get this straight," he muttered to his friend. "This festival is basically an intergalactic beatdown competition." His friend laughed nervously. "Pretty much. Except the losers sometimes wake up 3 days later." "Awesome," Evan sighed. "I always wanted to join a sport with a high chance of hospitalization." Up in the stands, Commander Keralia stood among her peers, radiant in ceremonial armor etched with gold. She scanned the participants with her usual calm, until she saw him. The human who once insulted her, survived her slap, and made her blush twice. Her tail froze midsway. He wouldn't dare. He did. Evan raised his hand and stepped onto the arena platform. His name flickered on the board. Evan Holt, human representative. The crowd murmured. Some laughed. A few Threxians hissed in amusement. The council master's voice boomed, "Match assigned, human Holt versus Commander Keralia." The stadium went silent. Evan blinked. "Wait. What?" Keralia's expression didn't move, but her golden eyes sparkled dangerously. "You wanted glory, human. Earn it." The announcer gestured dramatically. "Combatants, ready your blades." Evan groaned. "I just wanted to look brave, not suicidal." The bell rang. Keralia moved first, graceful, lightning fast, her plasma blade whistling through the air. Evan dodged, ducked, rolled, barely keeping up. Every strike sent sparks dancing around them. The crowd roared. Evan's arms ached. His weapon vibrated under each clash. But even as he stumbled, he kept smiling. "You're holding back, Commander." She stopped mid-motion, narrowing her eyes. "You wish for my true strength." "No," he gasped, "I just wish for a break." Her lips twitched, an almost invisible smirk. "Then earn it." She swung again. He blocked, barely. The clash sent him skidding backward, his boots carving lines in the sand. His lungs burned. He could taste blood. But then something strange happened. He began to move differently. Not like a soldier, but like himself. Improvised. Unpredictable. He sidestepped with humor, flipped the spear clumsily but effectively, and grinned through exhaustion. The audience, at first amused, began to cheer. Even the stern Threxians leaned forward, intrigued by his chaotic but fearless rhythm. And then, a small miracle. He disarmed her. It wasn't power, it was timing. Her weapon flew from her grip, landing beside a stunned official. The arena gasped. The commander stood weaponless, facing a panting human who looked as surprised as everyone else. Evan lowered his spear. I think I just accidentally won." For a long moment, she stared at him, then took a slow step forward. The light from the arena glowed across her face, catching the faint violet in her cheeks. "You would not strike a disarmed opponent?" she asked softly. He shook his head. Not someone I respect. That word, respect, landed harder than any blade. The arena went quiet. Even the Threxian Council exchanged looks. No human had ever used that word so calmly toward a commander. Kerulia bent down, retrieved her weapon, and then, instead of attacking, crossed her blade before her chest, the Threxian gesture of warrior acknowledgement. "You have courage," she said quietly. "And humor that refuses to die." He grinned, still catching his breath. "It's my best feature. That, and apparently good timing." For a moment, their eyes met, long, silent, powerful. The crowd didn't cheer. They didn't dare interrupt. Then, slowly, she turned and raised his arm toward the crowd. "Today," she declared, "the human earns his place among warriors." The arena erupted in applause, thunderous, deafening. Evan blinked, overwhelmed. "I didn't die. I actually didn't die." She leaned slightly closer, her voice low so only he could hear. "Do not grow proud, human. Tomorrow, you face me again, and I will not go easy." He grinned. "I'd be disappointed if you did." Her blush deepened, though she turned away before he could see it fully. That night, the base celebrated. Music pulsed through the halls. Humans and Threxians shared their first mixed feast since the war. Evan sat at the far end of the hall, nursing his bruised arms, when Kerulia approached silently. Without her armor, she looked different, less commander, more woman. "You fought with spirit," she said softly. "You embarrassed me publicly, yet honored me too." He looked up, smiling. "Guess we're even, then. You slapped me in front of everyone." For the first time, she laughed, a deep, musical sound that turned a few heads nearby. "You are chaos, human Holt." "And you," he said, raising his glass, "are terrifying. But kinda amazing." She tilted her head, watching him. "You risk death and still find time to flatter." He shrugged. "Flirting is cheaper than armor." The corners of her lips curved again. "Then you are defenseless." Their eyes held, the world fading for a heartbeat. Around them, warriors drank, music roared, and the tension of centuries softened for a moment. Two worlds, one table, one shared smile. And somewhere deep within Kerulia's heart, a quiet truth took root. She no longer saw him as prey, but as something far more dangerous, hope. The celebration lights still flickered across the Threxian base when the alarms began to howl. At first, no one believed it. The Festival of Blades had ended only hours ago. Laughter still echoed in the halls, the scent of roasted meats hung in the air, and even Commander Kerulia had allowed herself a rare smile. But now, crimson sirens painted the walls in flashing red. The loudspeakers roared. "Alert! Unknown hostiles breaching the outer gate. All units to defense positions." The peace shattered like glass. Kerulia stormed into the command center, armor half-fastened, tail flicking in fury. "How many?" "3 assault craft, unidentified," replied the officer. No response to codes. Energy readings, human and Threxian tech combined. Her eyes narrowed. "Traitors!" Outside, explosions lit the horizon. Evan Holt was already running toward the chaos. His ribs still ached, but he carried a pulse rifle he barely knew how to use. Soldiers raced past him, smoke filled the air. He heard screams, metallic tearing, and the unholy sound of plasma cutting through steel. As he reached the outer yard, a massive blast threw him into the sand. He rolled, coughing, vision spinning, and saw shadowy figures pouring through a broken gate. They weren't ordinary attackers. They were Threxian extremists, a faction that believed humans had corrupted their honor by joining the alliance. The leader's armor shimmered black and red, his mask carved like a demon's jaw. "Purge the base," he shouted. "No half-blood alliances. No mercy for the weak." Kerulia appeared like lightning, crashing down from the upper wall. Her blade flared with golden fire. "Cowards," she roared. "You bring shame to our name." The traitors charged. The courtyard exploded into battle. Evan ducked behind a fallen crate, firing wildly. He wasn't a soldier, but he aimed where instinct told him, covering wounded troops, pulling them out of danger. Plasma bolts scorched the sand near his face. Then he saw her, Keralia, surrounded, blades flashing, outnumbered 5-1. Her armor sparked where hits landed. Without thinking, he ran. "Human! Stay back!" she shouted, parrying 2 strikes at once. He ignored her. He grabbed a fallen shield, sprinted through the fire, and slammed into the nearest attacker, knocking the alien backward. A plasma grenade rolled between them, blinking red. Keralia's eyes widened. "Halt!" He threw himself over it. The blast tore the air apart. For a second, the world vanished. Only sound, then silence. Only light, then darkness. When the dust cleared, Keralia was on her knees, covered in ash, staring at the human lying still on the ground. His armor was half melted, smoke rising from it. Her chest tightened. She crawled to him, ignoring the pain in her own body. "Evan! Get up! You foolish creature, get up!" His eyes fluttered. He smiled weakly. "Hey! Commander! Still alive?" Tears burned behind her eyes, something her species rarely showed. "You jumped on a grenade." "Yeah," he whispered, coughing. "I've got bad reflexes for self-preservation." She almost laughed, but her voice cracked. "You could have died." "Worth it," he said faintly. "You're too important for the universe to lose." Her throat tightened. She pressed her hand to his chest, feeling the slow, unsteady rhythm beneath. "Don't speak. I'll get you to the medbay." She lifted him in her arms, as if he weighed nothing. Her soldiers saw her, the great Commander Keralia, running through smoke and blood, carrying a human as if he were a fallen prince. No one dared speak. Hours later, in the dim medbay light, Keralia sat beside his bed. Machines hummed softly. His face was pale, one hand bandaged, the other resting on his chest where the blast had hit. She hadn't moved for hours. Her armor lay beside her, dented, burned, soaked with ash. Her second-in-command approached quietly. "Commander, the traitors are defeated. The Council requests your report." "Later," she said. Her tone was soft but final. He hesitated. "You care for him?" She turned her golden eyes on him, calm but dangerous. "Leave." When the door shut, silence returned. Keralia leaned forward slowly, placing her forehead against Evan's hand, a gesture of devotion never shown to anyone outside her kind. She whispered, voice trembling. "You shielded me when the stars themselves ran from fire. Why, human? Why do you throw your fragile body before death for another?" His eyes blinked open faintly, lips curling in that stubborn grin. "Because that's what humans do." Her breath caught. For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the machines filled the room like a heartbeat between two worlds. She finally whispered, "Foolish, brave, beautiful creature." Then she did something no Thraxian commander had ever done. She reached out and brushed her claw gently through his hair. Outside the window, the dawn broke, soft and gold, washing over the battered base like forgiveness. That morning, every Thraxian who saw her walking through the base noticed something new. The once cold and untouchable commander now carried a streak of humanity in her gaze, a light she tried to hide. And the rumor began to spread faster than light. The human didn't just save her life. He changed it. The medbay was quiet. Only the soft hum of healing machines and the slow rhythm of a human heartbeat filled the room. Evan Holt lay pale under the white lights, his chest wrapped in thin layers of glowing nanobandage. The grenade blast had almost taken him. His body looked fragile now, too fragile for this war-built world. Beside him sat Commander Keralia, silent as stone. Her golden eyes didn't blink, her posture was still, but her tail curled tightly around the leg of the chair, a silent sign of torment. She hadn't left his side since the battle. The Council had called her 3 times. She'd ignored them all. Outside, Thraxian healers passed quietly, whispering. No one dared disturb the commander. The rumor had already spread across the base. The human who saved her was still alive, and she hadn't moved an inch away from him since. Hours passed like years. At last, Evan stirred. A faint groan escaped his lips. His hand twitched. Her head snapped up instantly. "Human!" His eyelids fluttered open, revealing that same stubborn spark. "You still here?" Keralia exhaled slowly, a sound like a shiver. You were unconscious for 2 cycles. I thought your species' fragility had finally defeated you. He smiled weakly. You were worried, heh? She didn't answer. Her eyes, usually blazing with command, softened like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. You are reckless. Foolish. Irrational. He chuckled. I'll take that as a compliment. Don't, she whispered. You almost died. He reached up slowly, fingers trembling, and touched her armor near her hand. But, you were worth saving. For a moment, she froze. Her breath hitched. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not with humor, not with heart. Her hand, large and clawed, covered his. You should not speak such things, human. My kind do not share bonds lightly. He looked into her eyes, calm. Then don't call it a bond. Call it gratitude. Or a bad habit. Her lips curved faintly, the ghost of a smile. Later that night, as he slept again, Keralia finally stood. The moonlight from Threxia's twin moons spilled across his face. She watched him quietly, then spoke, not to him, but to the room, to the stars, maybe even to herself. On my world, warriors are not allowed to cry. We are born to fight, not to feel. But since you bled for me, my chest has felt heavy. She placed her hand over her heart. The beat beneath it felt strange, uneven. Too fast. This is the curse you brought, human. You made a warrior remember she has a heart. A single tear, faintly silver, rolled down her cheek. Threxians didn't cry easily. Their emotions were tightly caged. But now, the strongest among them was trembling quietly beside a sleeping human. The door opened softly. A young Threxian medic peeked in. Commander? The council insists. Keralia's glare silenced her. Then, softer, send word to the council that I am tending to a matter of honor. Yes, Commander. The medic bowed and left. When the door shut, Keralia turned back to Evan. His chest rose and fell slowly. Each breath steadied something inside her and broke something else. She whispered, You risked everything for me. Do you even understand what that means in my culture? He stirred faintly but didn't wake. She smiled sadly. No, of course you don't. You simply act, without fear, without calculation. That is what makes humans dangerous and beautiful. When dawn arrived, golden light spilled through the medbay windows. Evan woke again to find Keralia still there, her head resting on folded arms beside his bed. For the first time, she looked peaceful, almost human. He blinked. Did you fall asleep watching me? Her eyes opened slowly. I do not sleep. I was meditating. He grinned. Sure. With snoring? Her tail flicked sharply. Humans find humor in everything, even near death. That's how we survive, he said. If we can laugh, we're still alive. She looked at him for a long time, then whispered something he almost didn't catch. Your laughter, it frightens me. He frowned softly. Why? Because it makes me forget that you are mortal. Their eyes locked. For a few seconds, there were no species, no ranks, only 2 souls caught in the same fragile moment. Then she took a deep breath. There is something you must know, human. On Threxia, when one of us blushes, it is not embarrassment. It is recognition. Recognition, he asked. It means, she said quietly, our soul has met its mirror. He blinked, stunned. So, he whispered, half smiling, that first day, when I said something stupid. Her gaze didn't waver. Yes. You awakened something ancient in me. A bond one cannot undo. Evan stared at her, speechless. You're telling me I'm your soulmate? She stood tall, regal, but her voice shook just slightly. In my language, the word means heart shadow. The one whose existence echoes yours. He laughed softly. Well, that explains the slap. Keralia's lips curved, a faint smile through shining eyes. It was instinct. I didn't know what else to do. Good thing you didn't kiss me then, he teased. Her tail froze midair. Do not tempt fate, human. He laughed again, weak, but alive. She looked away, but her cheeks glowed softly violet once more. And as the first light of morning filled the room, one truth became clear to both of them. The war had ended long ago. But now, something far more dangerous had begun: love. The morning of the peace ceremony dawned golden. Phrexia's twin suns rose together for the first time since the war, bathing the great plaza in light that shimmered off silver towers. Thousands had gathered, humans, Phrexians, and species from across the sector, all to witness a new alliance born from blood and courage. And at the center of it all stood Commander Kairalia. Her armor gleamed like molten gold, but beneath it, her pulse ran uneven. For the first time in her life, she wasn't sure if she could keep her composure. Beside her, standing awkwardly in half-polished gear and a crooked smile, was Evan Holt, the human who had somehow survived her slap, her training, a plasma grenade, and her heart. The crowd cheered their names together. Holt! Kairalia! Holt! Kairalia! It was a sound that made her chest tighten. No one had ever spoken a human and a Phrexian commander's name as one before. The Supreme Chancellor of the Alliance stepped forward, his voice booming through the plaza. Today we celebrate the unity of two proud species, once enemies, now bound by courage and compassion. None represent this better than these two warriors before you. Kairalia's gaze stayed fixed ahead, but her thoughts spiraled inward. She remembered the first day, his foolish compliment, her anger, her embarrassment. The human who dared speak without fear had somehow reached the part of her heart she didn't know existed. Her claws flexed slightly at her side. Why do I tremble? I am a warrior, not a child. Beside her, Evan leaned closer and whispered, "Relax, Commander. You look like you're about to fight the sun." She didn't turn, but her tail twitched. "If the sun mocks me, I might." He grinned. "You've come a long way from wanting to strangle me." Her golden eyes flicked to him briefly. "Do not tempt me. I may still consider it." He chuckled softly. "Yeah, but now it would be out of love, right?" Her breath hitched. He said it so simply, so human, like love was something you could just say out loud and survive. The Chancellor raised his hand. "To seal this peace, we invite both representatives to perform the gesture of unity, a mark of respect between equals." A hush fell. Every camera drone turned. Every soldier stood still. Kairalia faced him. Her tall frame cast a shadow over the human who had become legend. Evan looked up, half serious, half teasing. "You're not going to slap me again, are you?" The crowd laughed softly. Even the Chancellor smiled. But then, she stepped closer. Every eye locked on them. Her violet skin shimmered, her breathing slow. She reached out, her claws brushing his jaw, tracing the faint scar where her first slap had landed. Then, slap. A sound cracked through the plaza like thunder. Evan staggered half a step, more surprised than hurt. "Oh! History really does repeat itself." The humans gasped. The Phrexians froze. For one heartbeat, it felt like the start of another war. Then Kairalia's voice rang out, strong, clear, echoing through every microphone in the plaza. "Among my people, a slap means defiance. But when followed by touch..." She reached forward again, and took his hand. "It means acceptance. It means bond." A roar exploded from the crowd, a mix of cheers, gasps, and pure disbelief. Evan blinked, stunned, his hand still in hers. "So, was that your way of saying you like me?" Her lips curved, that small, rare, dangerous smile. "It is my way of saying you are mine." The cameras flashed. The universe would replay that moment for centuries. After the ceremony, the plaza turned into celebration. Humans and Phrexians laughed together, sharing food and stories. The air buzzed with a strange, beautiful peace. Evan stood by the balcony, looking out at the twin suns. His reflection shimmered in the glass, one human in a galaxy of giants. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. Kairalia joined him, her armor now removed, her features bare in the golden light. "You have changed everything," she said quietly. "Our soldiers speak of you as if you were born among us." He smiled. "Guess I've got an alien fan club now." She tilted her head. "You have more than that." He turned, meeting her gaze. "Oh yeah? What do I have?" She stepped closer until her forehead touched his, the Threxian gesture of soul bond. The world went still. "You have me." For a moment, the whole galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The crowd below caught sight of them and erupted once more. Cheers echoed across the plaza, across the broadcast, across space itself. The story of the human and the alien commander, the joke that became legend, the insult that turned into love, would spread across 1,000 worlds. That night, under the twin moons, Evan laughed softly as they walked through the quiet garden near the base. "You know," he said, "I still can't believe all this started because I said something dumb." Keralia smirked. "Perhaps the universe rewards honesty, even foolish honesty." He looked at her with that familiar grin. "Still hurts a little, though." She raised her hand slightly, teasing. "Would you like another reminder of your place, human?" He laughed. "Depends. Does it come with a kiss this time?" She paused. Then, after a long silence, her eyes softened. "It might." The camera of the story fades upward, over the glowing city, the twin moons, the two figures walking side by side, a warrior and a fool, a commander and a heart. And across the galaxy, one message echoed louder than any war cry. Humanity is not the strongest, but it is the one that teaches even gods how to love. The twin suns of Threxia burned over the silver training fields. The air shimmered with heat, the sound of metal clashing echoing across the alien base. Human soldiers stood in a row, watching the Threxian warriors train, giant, scaled fighters with eyes like molten golden armor that pulsed faintly with living light. Among them stood Evan Holt, a young human engineer temporarily assigned to maintenance duty on the Threxian base. He wasn't a soldier, but he had the kind of mouth that could start a war before lunch. He leaned on his mop, watching one of the Threxians move across the arena, a towering female warrior with violet skin and long, silver hair tied in a braid that shimmered with every motion. Her armor hugged her body like liquid glass, and she swung her plasma blade with precision that could cut through a tank. "Who is that?" Evan whispered to a fellow human beside him. "That's Commander Keralia," the man replied quietly. "She's the top Threxian warrior on this planet. She once destroyed a war mech with her bare hands." Evan let out a low whistle. "Damn," he muttered. "She's terrifying, but—" He squinted as she turned, the light glancing off the curve of her armor. "Also got a nice butt." The words slipped out softly, almost to himself. Almost. The entire training ground froze. Every Threxian ear twitched. Their species had far sharper hearing than humans. Even the wind seemed to stop. Commander Keralia turned slowly, her golden eyes narrowing as her gaze locked onto him. Evan's heart sank. "Ah! Crap!" The silence stretched for a full 5 seconds. Then she started walking toward him. Each step echoed like thunder. Soldiers, both human and Threxian, instinctively stepped back, clearing a path. She towered over him by at least 2 feet, her shadow swallowing him whole. Up close, her skin shimmered faintly like metal dust, and her expression could have frozen magma. "Human," she said, her voice deep and calm, but her tail flicked behind her like an angry whip. "Repeat what you said." Evan swallowed hard. "It was a cultural misunderstanding." Her eyes narrowed further. "You commented on the physique of your commanding officer." "Well," he said weakly, "I meant it as encouragement." The slap came faster than light. It wasn't malicious, it was instinct. Her hand connected with his helmeted face and sent him spinning to the ground with a metallic clang. The impact rang through his skull, stars exploding in his vision. The soldiers gasped. No human had ever been slapped by a Threxian commander and lived to joke about it. Evan lay there, blinking. His cheek burned, his pride hurt, but somehow he smiled. "Totally worth it," he groaned. Something unexpected happened. Keralia's violet skin deepened in color, like a blush. She turned away sharply, her silver braid flicking as if to hide her face. The warriors around her exchanged confused looks. Threxians didn't blush. Not unless. She barked, "Human. Report to my division tomorrow. You are reassigned." Then she marched off, leaving a trail of stunned silence. Evan sat up, rubbing his helmet. Did she just promote me or sign my death warrant? His fellow engineer whispered, both. That night, as Evan lay in his small metal bunk, he replayed the moment in his head. The way she'd looked at him, half fury, half something else. Her species was known for pride and discipline, not emotion. But for a brief second, he could have sworn her eyes had softened. He chuckled to himself. Guess I've got away with women. Even if they're 8 feet tall and built like tanks. Outside his cabin window, the Threxian moon hung over the base like a glowing coin. In the distance, he saw her, training alone under the moonlight. Every swing of her blade shimmered with energy, graceful and deadly. Yet for all her strength, she seemed distracted. He didn't know it, but in Threxian culture, a blush was an embarrassment, it was a sign of recognition. Their instincts flared only when they sensed a soul connection. Something ancient. Something binding. And now, every Threxian in the base whispered the same thing that would change both their worlds. The human who made Commander Keralia blush is doomed. Evan closed his eyes, smiling faintly despite the pain in his jaw. He had no idea what storm he had just started. But deep down, he couldn't wait for tomorrow.